just like politics, all news is local, and that's certainly the case on Idaho Matters, the weekday public affairs podcast from Boise State Public Radio. Listen today to hear about events and issues that impact Idahoans. Search Idaho Matters wherever you get your podcasts.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector, Idaho's daily news. Good morning, I'm Michael Schauer. It's Thursday, October 10th, and here are today's headlines. Brian Kohberger's murder trial in Boise has been rescheduled to later in the summer 2025. His trial in the killing of 4 University of Idaho students was previously scheduled to start June 2nd of next year. The trial is now expected to last no later than November 7th next year, nearly the 3-year mark of the infamous crime that shook the rural North Idaho college town. The full trial had previously been planned to conclude by August 29th next year under the prior judge in Moscow. Kohberger, 29, is charged in the stabbing deaths of 4 U of I students at an off-campus home in Moscow in the early morning hours of November 13, 2022. Kohberger faces 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Prosecutors intend to seek the death penalty if he is convicted. Kohberger's next scheduled court appearance is November 7th as part of the defense's effort to eliminate the death penalty as a possible sentence. The city of Boise has settled a lawsuit with Boise Police Sergeant Kirk Rush, who sought damages for the alleged misconduct of former Chief Ryan Lee during a 2021 training incident. The city's insurance provider settled the case for $850,000. In the lawsuit, Rush, a member of the Boise Police Department's K-9 unit, alleged that Lee demonstrated a neck hold on him without consent during a training exercise, causing injuries that later required surgery. Rush claimed the neck hold was a form of retaliation because he had disagreed with Mr. Lee about the direction of the K-9 unit. This was one of multiple controversies that led to Lee's ouster last year. In May, Boise settled a lawsuit from its former director of police accountability, Jesus Hara, for $675,000. Hara claimed that his firing in late 2022 was in retaliation for his investigation into police officers' complaints against Lee. Whooping cough continues to surge in Southern Idaho. As Troy Oppie reports, health officials say this area was due for an outbreak, and it's probably worse than we know.
Pertussis outbreaks, commonly known as whooping cough, are cyclical, says Central District Health Epidemiology Program Manager Sarah Wright.
We know to expect it every 3 to 5 years. This outbreak is not an exception to that.
The percentage of population catching the bacteria that causes a violent and long-term cough is roughly the same now as the last outbreak in 2019, she says. But this year, the trademark sound of a pertussis cough has been inconsistent in patients.
After someone coughs, they whoop back in. We haven't been hearing that as often this time, which is very unique.
Wright says that means people who get infected may not realize they should get tested for pertussis and could be spreading the highly infectious disease without knowing it. In the 10-county area managed by Central and Southwest District Health Offices, there have been 222 confirmed cases this year, 51 of those since September 5th. Most are in Ada and Canyon counties. Wright says they expected an increase as kids got back to school.
We have seen cases in most of the major high schools in the area. A lot of the elementary school and junior highs. It's definitely not isolated to one district or one part of town.
Health districts work with schools to provide information, but schools are not obligated to announce if a student has tested positive for pertussis. Antibiotic treatment is available to anyone who's been exposed, and vaccines can help limit serious illness. But Wright says adults need booster shots every 7 to 10 years to remain effective. Troy Oppie, Boise State Public Radio News.
The education nonprofit behind Boise's Anne Frank Memorial is getting its own building in downtown Boise. The Wassmuth Center for Human Rights will now reside in a brand new space next to the memorial. Julia Luqueta visited ahead of its opening this evening.
The center was first founded 22 years ago to build the only memorial on U.S. soil dedicated to the young victim of the Holocaust. Since then, the center has been offering classes, lectures, and trainings in the community.
As the demand for programming grew, it really became apparent that having a space ideally adjacent to the memorial was kind of the dream, and here we are.
That's director Christina Bruce Benyon. She says the new space will be a place for the public to engage with local artwork, attend classes, and reflect on Idaho's history of human rights. The center does not focus on particular violations. Instead, it offers programming to identify what it calls the spiral of injustice.
And the top level is language, and that's where it starts, right? It's how we begin with othering, how we talk about other groups, and then if we don't interrupt the spiral, at that point it can continue to avoidance, discrimination, violence, and elimination.
The center was funded by roughly 650 donors and cost $6.4 million. It opens its doors to the public this evening at 5:30. All are welcome. Julie Luqueta, Boise State Public Radio News.
The Boise National Forest issued an expansion of the closure order for areas impacted by the Middle Fork fires, Goat Fire, and Snag Fire. The new closure expands east to include the lands between the previous closure and the 555 road and 579 road to Landmark. Even though the Warm Lake Highway is open, areas surrounding the highway, including Trail Creek Hot Springs, are currently unsafe for visitation due to concerns over debris flows, snags, flash flooding possibility, and other dangers associated with recently burned terrain. And that's today's episode of The Connector. I'm Michael Scherer, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. To stay in touch with the news between now and then, check out BoiseStatePublicRadio.org or download the free Boise State Public Radio app. Thanks for listening.
If you like podcasts like this, explore more from the Boise State Public Radio podcast family. There you'll find a mix of daily news, Idaho Voices, and in-depth series on a wide range of topics. I'm talking wild horses, political scandals, sustainable ranching, and militia groups in a post-January 6th world. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Boise State Public Radio to find what Idaho's NPR station has in store for you.